Hello, and welcome to Odds on Premier League Matchday 26. Exciting week and weekend in England with the League Cup final between Chelsea and Liverpool. We had Premier League games. We had Arsenal losing in the Champions League, and we have Tom Rennie dancing. Hello, Tom.
Yeah, so much going on. Exciting times. I'm looking forward to today's show.
Okay, so let's not waste any time, guys. Remember, this is a live video. Ask any question to Tom Rennie about his West Ham or any other team in the Premier League, of course. Press the like, subscribe. Let's go on with the show. Yeah, we haven't mentioned, of course, Man City having a tough week with the games against Chelsea and Brentford at home. We didn't expect that. We expect having this exclusive welcome offer in Oddspedia. Remember, if you are looking for a bookmaker to sign up with, you have the opportunity to get extra 30% with Oddspedia and 1xBet. Perhaps it's a good idea to use this great welcome offer in the game we have on Sunday, big game final of the League Cup in Wembley, Chelsea, Liverpool, in the farewell season of Jurgen Klopp. This is a good chance to grab the first title. Remember that Liverpool, they can still win the poker. Why not? Alive in the FA Cup, in the Premier League, in the Europa League. And they are favorites, as we can expect in this final. But Chelsea, they are doing something good for the very first time of the season. We saw them very dangerous at the counter-attack, Tom, against Man City, hurting big rivals like the Citizens. Perhaps this is the recipe also to beat this Liverpool?
Yeah, I think the tactics will be pretty much the same as we saw in that pretty successful performance at the Etihad last week. And I mean, look, let's start with Chelsea. You know, we've had some fun with them, haven't we? Maybe not as much as we should have had this season because we were also focused on the hilarity that was the failures of Manchester United. But if you do spend over $1 billion on players, eventually you got to think it's going to come good. They bought a lot of young players, inexperienced players in the Premier League. They had a new manager. And understandably, there has been a lot of teething issues, which they're not fully out of, by the way. There's still lots of things to resolve for Maurizio Pochettino. But I went to the Crystal Palace game a couple of Mondays ago where they lacked incision, but were in total control of the game. I worked on the Man City game at the weekend where I thought defensively they were excellent. Axel Disasi put in maybe the best defensive individual performance by any Chelsea player since the days of John Terry. He was absolutely fantastic on the day. I thought Malo Gusto at fullback. He's so good, Malo Gusto. I'm not sure Reece James gets back in if he's ever fit again. That's how good Gusto has been. You add that to, I think, Enzo Fernandez put in a really good performance. We haven't seen much of that. Caicedo kept tackling people until we got yellow carded. Probably could have got 9 yellows in the game. You know, on and on. There were some really good performances from Chelsea. Lack of incision still. They haven't got a striker, really. But in general, really impressed. And I think they can go into this game with a semblance and sense of confidence, considering the performances of the last few weeks. In terms of players missing, it looks like Thiago Silva will be out, but I don't think that is a massive loss for them, considering the performance of Disasi last weekend and Levi Colwill as well. So, look, I think Chelsea have found a team. The only thing missing is that central striker. I don't think Nicholas Jackson is it, but Christopher Nkunku has not really done much the last couple of games. Awful when he came on against Man City and pretty bad when he came on against Palace previously too. So, really interesting, Chelsea. Good team, good players, good coach, getting better. They're rightly not favourites going into this game because Liverpool have that whole, as you alluded to, Jurgen Klopp farewell tour, let's win it all mentality. The thing is with Liverpool is that eventually they might start running out of players. I'm sure Chelsea fans will sympathise. No Diogo Jota in this game. Curtis Jones looks like he's missing. Alisson will not be in goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold is not available. Still no Dominic Szoboszlai. Matip out for the season. There's some doubts about Darwin Núñez. I'd probably say 4 or 5 of those would start this game. And those that don't start probably come off the bench. That leaves you with a very strong, but that's it, first 11. Still, it's Salah up front. It's Luis Diaz. It's still brilliant. And the defense is still pretty strong, but that does add a layer of doubt about Liverpool going into this game, because I think losing Szoboszlai, losing Jota, and maybe losing Nunez, and certainly Alexander-Arnold and the goalkeeper, the goalkeeper is worth 5 points a season to Liverpool because he keeps them in games. And I think Quivan Kelleher is a good keeper, but he's not Alisson. And that matters at the very top end in the finals, more often than not. So really tricky one, this. And I do think it's worth looking at those last two finals between these two as well. They were in this final together 2 years ago. They also competed in the FA Cup final together that season. Liverpool won both games after draws after 120 minutes. And I think it'll be similar too. I think Chelsea look good defensively. I think Liverpool play better offensively against the high line. I don't think Pochettino will do that. And so if you're looking at what to bet on here, if you think there'll be a winner in 90, that winner will be Liverpool. So take Liverpool to win to 0 in 90, brings you in at 4.33. 2.25 to win is no good. If Liverpool win, they do it by stopping Chelsea from scoring and going on to score themselves. So 4.33 to win without conceding is really nice. Personally, my top tip will be draw after 90 minutes. Take a draw after 90 minutes at 3.60, 3.84 just for the draw this morning. Very, very nice. Finals tend to go that way. Even if there's a big favourite and an underdog, it always tends to be the case. And then you look at how it's won. And I'm going to follow the pattern of the last two finals between these two. If you think Liverpool win in extra time, that's 9.5, best I found this morning. You might find better searching the Oddspedia markets, but 9.5 I thought was really nice. And as happened the last two times these two teams met in the final, Liverpool on penalties, 13. 12 to 1. Incredible odds considering it literally happened the last two times. So I'd favour for Liverpool. I'd shade for Liverpool. I'd look at the under markets. I'd look for a narrow result. Liverpool win to 0 in 90. Liverpool win on penalties after 120.
Usually the finals are very narrow, as you said, and there is a lot of value in the under market. For instance, under 2.5 goals is 2.35, or for instance, both teams to score no pays 2.45. In both teams to score yes is 1.6. So there is a lot of value on the no. Even if someone is comparing Black Adam, this game, to the one Liverpool played on Wednesday against Luton. But Tom, this is a different thing. This is a final, and every single team takes a lot of precautions, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. The Luton game went as we predicted, right? Both teams to score, Liverpool to win it. Went for the over, which just came in with that third goal scored. But, the only issue is rotation of squad, players that got injured. But I don't see Liverpool having tired legs at Wembley on Sunday. I can't see it.
Well, great final. This is Tom's tip for the game we have on Sunday. Let's move on to the Premier League, to the games we have on Saturday. First one is Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. Stop the fall in the table. Aston Villa with the win in Craven Cottage. They lost the last three home games in Villa Park after being one of the best teams, if not the best, at home in the country. Forest also a key victory against your West Ham. Very favorite, Aston Villa, 1.6.
Yeah, and I think that is a surprise. It's so low, considering the last couple of Villa games, 2 defeats, just 1 win in their last 4. The imperious nature of Villa's home form has come to an end. But, of course, Nottingham Forest rarely win away from home. The Newcastle game was, Boxing Day? That was their second away victory of the season and just third since promotion. So they are a very poor away team. And in terms of Aston Villa, it's been bumpy in the last couple of weeks, but I do think the former Leon Bailey has been encouraging. Ollie Watkins scoring again is encouraging. The issues are defensively. No Diego Carlos, no Ezri Konsa. Tyrone Mings back in training, but unlikely to play. Good news for them. Pau Torres is back in, who was fantastic for them until his injury, back in December, start of January. So, look, I think Villa are favourites for obvious reasons, even though the recent form has been poor. What's interesting about Villa is they're conceding goals at home all of a sudden. And when they've conceded goals previously, they've before that gone on to score 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at times this season. And those goals have sort of dried up. I think it will come good again in this game. If you look at Forest away from home this season, 24 goals conceded. That's an average of 2 per game on the road. I think that will continue. I think Forest going forward have looked impressive. The form of Hudson-Odoi is good. Taiwo Awoniyi coming back in has made a massive difference. Scored a great goal against West Ham last week. ne'er forget, literally can't defend, but still it's a great turn. I think offensively they look good, but defensively, I think Murillo, one good tackle against Antonio last week. That was boobery and attacking as opposed to good defending, in my view. I think they'll concede goals. So go both teams to score in this game. I think that will happen. I fancy Forest for a goal. Offensively good, defensively bad. Villa offensively good. Villa winning both teams to score brings you in at 2.88, slightly below what we'd like. The other thing I like here is draw at halftime. Why? Because I think Forest will look to keep it tight in the first half, as we saw last week. And Villa, as the game goes on, will get stronger. Draw and then Villa win is 4.5. And look for your form goal scorers. If you think Villa, which I do, Watkins scores, Villa win 2.88.
He scored a brace last weekend. Travis is going for Villa to win and over 1.5 goals. Goals, Brighton. Brighton-Everton is the next game. Brighton scored 5 against Sheffield United after losing 2-1 with Tottenham, but the last 4 games, over 2.5 goals. This is normal for the Chervis team. Everton, with that point against Crystal Palace, are out of the relegation spot, same points as Luton Town. 4 draws in the last 5 games, winless in 8, the Toffees.
Yeah, really awful game for them as well, though we thought that last year in this match, and then they went to Brighton and absolutely thumped them with a brilliant away performance. The performance that basically got them safe last season was the incredible victory at the Amex Stadium. So don't discount Everton on that score. But look, Brighton are back in good form. They're back in good form. I think that this season, the thin squad, the style of football, the Europa League campaign, all of that came together to see some results slip away from Brighton this season. 8 draws, not good enough for the quality of their performances this season. I would have expected more. They would have expected more. The injuries are clearing up a little bit. The only real notable one is that there's a doubt about João Pedro going into this game. Has been fantastic. Beyond that, and Enciso and March, long-time absentees. Beyond that, it's a pretty strong squad for Brighton now. And as you mentioned, they're scoring goals in this good run of form as well. 5 against Sheffield United, 4 against Crystal Palace. There were some concerns in January when they couldn't score against Wolves, when they couldn't score against West Ham. That's come to an end now, and so you back Brighton for goals. You mentioned Everton's form. I mean, they couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo. They're just so poor offensively. Calvert-Lewin, is it 18 or 19 games without a goal for the striker? That is extraordinary. Beto is the other striker. He's nowhere near good enough. And then what does that leave you? It leaves you scoring from corners. If they don't score from a corner, they're probably not going to score. And the corner they score is a back post deep delivery. It's the corner Sean Dyche has been scoring in the Premier League for a decade. Stop that. Stop Everton. And I think Brighton will stop that this weekend. So go for a Brighton win for the reasons mentioned. They've scored plenty of goals recently. They'll score here. I was quite surprised to see a -1 handicap at 3.25. I thought that was really, really good. I thought that would be under 2-1. So Brighton win -1 is 3.25. Very, very nice. If you back goals, you're backing Brighton goals. Brighton win over 2.5 goals in the match, brings you in at 2.63. It's slightly more conservative, but 2-1 victory, 3-1 victory, as they've achieved in recent times. I can see that. If you really feel brave, over 3.5 goals. That means Everton will score in this game for people. And as we know, I think all but 4, maybe 5 games this season, it's been both teams to score with Brighton. Brighton over 3.5 brings you in at 4.5. But a -1 handicap is my tip here.
Good, Romario. Oh, great name, Romario. Great player and great politician now.
The actual one?
He's slimmer, Romario, than Neymar. I don't know if you've seen recent images of Neymar and Romario looks fitter than Neymar. Congratulations to Romario, one of my favorite players, even if he played for Barcelona. Brighton to win is his tip. Hello, Marco. Next game, relegation battle, Crystal Palace, Burnley was a surprise, I guess. Roy Hodgson stepping down before the game. With Everton now, Oliver Glasner is the new manager. It's only 1 win in 5 for Crystal Palace. That's why they are involved in the relegation battle. For Burnley, smashed by Arsenal, as you predicted after the defeat with Liverpool. They lost the last 3 away games, conceding 3 goals in every single game of these ones. How do you see this one? Were you surprised also by Hodgson leaving the club?
No, I wasn't surprised. Health issues, poor form. They know that he shouldn't have been kept on for another season. Roy probably knew that as well. So I wasn't surprised. I think that because he was unwell, it led to a kind of extra layer to this story. But strip that away, make him 66 and not 76. He had to go. There was nothing happening at Crystal Palace. And even with the new investment in the summer, I think Adam Wharton's been really good during the last couple of games. They were going nowhere and going nowhere fast. But to be fair, that's always Crystal Palace. I was surprised that Oliver Glasner came in. I think he can do better than Crystal Palace. Feel free to be upset about that, Palace fans. But Palace they've got a ceiling of 12th in the Premier League. They're in an incredibly competitive market in London teams. They don't pay the top wages in London. And the thing is, you could go to the 4th or 5th best team in London. The 4th biggest team in London is West Ham, and they pay big money and play in front of 62,000. It's tough to attract people to your club in London. If you're Palace, you're Brentford, you're Watford, whatever, in the Premier League, in and around London. So, I'm not surprised that Roy Hodgson went. I'm surprised that Glasner came. In terms of current Crystal Palace, really impressed recently by Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's really worked on his ball control, which was severely lacking during the first sort of year of his time there. I think he's been great. Really impressed with Wharton, as I mentioned, in midfield, but still they lack the creative spark of Eze and Elise. Everyone knows that at this point. You lose 2 players of that quality. Zaha goes in the summer. They haven't really replaced that. And there's a recipe for disaster there. In terms of Burnley, I mean, look, my analysis of Burnley every single week is the same. It's boring, frankly. So they're not a great team. They don't have Premier League quality. They are going to go down. Better away from home than at home this season, but that's not saying too much. Shocked when they beat Fulham just before Christmas, but since then, back to type in the game, scoring goals, but losing. And look, Villa, City and Liverpool is a tricky old away run of form, but I'm not going to back them with my money to win a game of football this season, right? So what do you do here? You look at the form, difficult with a new manager, but all the Palace games in recent times have been close. Even when goals have been scored, they have been relatively close. So I am going to look at the Brighton game as my guide. I'm going to look at the Brentford game as my guide, the Sheffield United game as my guide, and sort of dismiss the Chelsea match and look for a relatively tight game. Draw screams it. Screams draw in a lot of ways, this one at 3.60. But what I'll be doing here as a top tip is to take a draw at half-time. Palace win it by the end. 5 is really nice. That's 4-1. Quadruple your money. And I think it'll be tight. I think there'll be no goals in the first half. And I think as it goes on, Palace, who have a stronger squad, you don't say that much this season, will go on to win it late. Palace win second half.
1-0 to 1 could be exact score. This is a key game for Palace. If they win, they would put 8 points distance with Luton Town or perhaps even Everton. So this could be staying safe one more season in the Premier League. At the same time, we have Man United, Fulham. Man United on their way to have a perfect month of February. They've won every single game in February. Perhaps Ten Hag to be named manager of the month. Who knows? But they are now in the race to finish top 4. Why not? 5 points away from the top 4. Fulham lost to Aston Villa after beating Bournemouth. Last 3 games were both teams to score. So perhaps here United win with both teams to score could be a very good option. And I know you like Højlund to score. He's delivering lately.
Yeah, and that's what's been missing with Man United all season, right? I mean, they are the most statistically proven expensive team ever assembled in terms of transfer fees. So eventually you got to feel like it was going to come right. This season, compared to last season, what's been lacking? Goals. Marcus Rashford scored 20-plus goals last season. That was the differential between Man U being mid-table and Man U finishing in the top 4. This season, nobody was scoring. They play in the exact same way. They play quite similar to West Ham and Wolverhampton Wanderers and, 1 or 2 other teams. They're a counter-punching team. They absorb and break as few passes as possible between winning the ball back and scoring. The trouble is, nobody was scoring. Now Rasmus Højlund is. We've chronicled him all season, Rasmus Højlund, and I saw his debut at Arsenal in August, and I thought, yeah, good player. Raw. Not ready to be Man United's number 9. He has improved. He is clearly working every single day to improve his game. The players around him are getting used to him, and you're seeing that in the goals scored. The first goal against Luton last week, bad defending, but brilliant attacking. And the second goal, the chest. I don't think he's trying to shoot, but I think his instinct is keep this ball live. And that's great instincts. It comes off his chest, he turns it towards goal, and it goes in. Fantastic. It's a fantastic striker's goal against Luton last week. So really impressed with him. Of course, defensively, there's still issues with no Lisandro Martinez, no Wan-Bissaka, and no Luke Shaw. But I still think they're going to be too good for Fulham here. So my first tip would be Højlund to score and Man United to win. That brings you in at 2.63. You've got to find things right now at United because they're going to be short odds right now. So I back that every game for 2 or 3 weeks. I think it will come in a couple of times. And you've said both teams to score. And look, I see why you would say that because of Fulham in general, but their away form this season is so garbage. It's so bad that I just can't back it. 1 victory away from home all season long. Just 11 goals scored away from home all season long. And yes, they scored a couple of goals in the game against Burnley. Didn't score against Chelsea. Didn't score against Bournemouth. Didn't score against Newcastle. I can't back it. I just cannot back them to score in this game. So on the last game, yes. On the overall pattern, no. United win to 0 brings you at 3, 2-1, double your money. That's for me.
Well, Tom, I was checking the stats now in Oddspedia, and you are totally right. Man United and Fulham are 2 of the 3 worst teams in the Premier League, in both teams to score. The worst one is Everton, and then we have Fulham, and then Man United. So the stats back your analysis. Wow, Black Adam is betting on Fulham to have over 17 shots. This might pay nuts.
That's
this
wild.
Is wild. I don't think.
I mean, I love people taking the spread. I really do. I love people going wild on these bets, but not with my money. I'm trying to win you money, 100. Guys. You can do what you want with your money. If you want to do wild bets, you don't need me.
Over 8 shots on target. This is a lot for Man United. Not even Man City gets these stats. Next game, Bournemouth, Man City. And I would like to hear your explanation about Man City struggling last week with the draw at home against Chelsea, with the narrow victory against Brentford. And what is next? This game in the south of England, perhaps a tricky one, and then the derby, and then Liverpool for Man City.
Yeah, I mean, briefly on Bournemouth first, I've been really impressed by them at times this season. I still think it's a poor squad, and I still think that next season they'll be in trouble again. As and when they lose Dominic Solanke, they will not be able to attract someone to Bournemouth with their wage bill to cover the loss that he will be. And look, when you're scoring that many goals in the Premier League, what is it, 14 scored now for Solanke, they aren't going to be able to keep him. I don't want football to be that way, and I hope it's not the case, but, I live in the real world, right? The moon is not made of cheese. So eventually that is going to happen, but there's been some really good performers in recent times for Bournemouth. Semenyo, I think, has added goal scoring to his wild chaos. I think Alex Scott coming in midfield has made a massive difference. So look, Bournemouth, I like them. They're a good team. They finished probably top of the bottom half, and that's pretty impressive on their budget. Trouble is Man City come to town. And the issue with Man City, there's a few things. Number one, they are now so reliant on Erling Haaland to score. When he misses 3 sitters, as he did against Chelsea last week, they don't win the game. And look at the game in midweek. They're struggling. Oh, look, Erling Haaland's here to score and get them back in the game, right? They're built around him, and of course they're built around him. He is the most phenomenal striker in current European football, so of course you do that. But it has meant, Julian Alvarez has gone to a different position. It has meant, Kevin De Bruyne is interesting. He came back from injury, had that brilliant 5-6-7 game run, but then obviously you've got to get into that next bit, which is every week, every game, go again. Coming back from injury is very different to sustained form. And so maybe he's dropped off a little bit, and you saw that in him getting dropped in midweek, dropped down to the bench for the midweek victory. So, there are question marks there. And I also think that the solidity that comes with having like a Kanji or Stones in midfield is great, but it also means you don't have then a Gundogan, or he's getting no time, Mateus Nunes in midfield. The creativity from deep isn't there because they're maybe a bit too solid. But look, Crimea River, right? That's Man City. What they'll do is buy everyone's best player and come again next season. That's what happens when you're owned by a sovereign wealth fund. What do I think here in this particular game? How do you make some money? You don't make money on City win 1.47. And as discussed so many times this season, the handicap ain't working. The handicap for City this season is not working. They are not battering teams. So here's a pattern for you. Going into the game against Brentford, so 2 further games since then, and Chelsea will be included. So they have fallen behind this season, City, in 12 of 26 games. That means they have fallen behind. The other team has scored the opening goal. City have gone on to win. I went to Brentford fairly recently, the Brentford City game. Neil Maupay scored the opening goal. City got better and went on to win. Man City to win from behind in this game, 7.5. 7.5. Now, look, there are easier bets here. You can do City win, and they're going to win. You can take it. I don't think it's worth your time. This is worth a tenner of your money because it's happened in just under half of their games this season, home and away. 7.5 to win from behind. So I'm taking that. I think that's really, really nice. And I think with Solanke, there's every chance Bournemouth can score first. They've done it a lot this season against Newcastle, against West Ham in recent games. The other one here is City win and both teams score. I think you've got to back at least one Bournemouth goal. Brings you to 2.63. There's your conservative bet. But 7.5 for something that statistically is likely, take it.
Black Adam is highlighting Solanke to score or Foden. There is a nice debate, by the way, about Foden or Bellingham, who is the best English player at the moment, or the one that has the highest probabilities to win the Ballon d'Or. But I will ask you some other time when the Euro draws near, Tom, about your opinion about that. Man City, by the way, thrashed Bournemouth this season at home, was 6-1. Also last season, the head-to-head is all wins for the citizens. So the stats are with Man City. They have a tough schedule ahead of them, Manchester Derby, and then Liverpool, perhaps title deciders. And in the title race, we have Arsenal. It's been a bad week for them. They lost in the Champions League. Perhaps they could pay the effort in this game. Also, Man City and Liverpool won their rivals, but in the Premier League, they are perfect in the recent weeks, smashing every single team. I'm not sure if they are going to smash Newcastle lately. It's very, very entertaining, this Newcastle last 7 games, both teams to score, and in those at least over 3.5 goals. So if you want to watch a game, I think you should tune this Arsenal Newcastle.
Yeah, I agree to a point, but I'm kind of scarred by going to this game last season and seeing Newcastle just try and scrap their way to a goalless draw. That was the plan in this game kind of last Christmas when Newcastle were in the title race at that point, as were Arsenal, of course, top of the table. So, look, Arsenal in the recent couple of weeks in the Premier League have been great going forward, offensively brilliant. Leandro Trossard has been outstanding. Martinelli and Saka have hit some good form. Declan Rice playing 5 different positions in midfield. Ben White helping him out, which means he can go roaming. All of that. Really good performances from Arsenal in those games. But you've got to remember, West Ham are garbage right now, and Burnley have been trash all season. So, you've got to take those results, brilliant as impressive as they were, with a pinch of salt. I think you've got to look more at the Nottingham Forest game, more at the Fulham game, and more at the at the Liverpool game a few weeks ago at Anfield. A little bit more at those sort of performances where you're a bit like, oh, okay, the West Ham game at home maybe. There's something about Arsenal in these games it's still a little bit missing. If it doesn't go their way, like against Nottingham Forest, it's going to be a bit of a slog. And Newcastle, despite their brilliant recent away form, still have just a ridiculous amount of injuries. I mean, it's still a write-off season for them. No Wilson, no Cher, no Isak, no Joe Linton, no Pope, no Willock, no Anderson, no Target. 4 of those would probably start. Some of the others would probably play. And if you've got no Wilson, no Isak, Gordon did all right last week in central striker, but you can see there are issues there holding the ball up. It's going to be so hard to do against Gabriel and Saliba. It's a reason they're 8.5 here, right? That's huge for Newcastle to win any game, even on their form this season. So, look, I think that Arsenal are going to win it, and I think it's not going to be the thriller that maybe it looks like on paper in advance. I can see Arsenal trying to win this game, being defensively sound, Newcastle playing a low block and trying to hit on the counter, not being easy to do that against Arsenal this season for many teams. So I think quite low scoring. Arsenal win to 0, brings in at 2.63. I think narrow, I think tight, I think scrappy. I think Arsenal might take it low scoring, and that brings me to my favourite, the group bet. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3.25. Yeah, I fancy it.
Okay, Man Spaghetti is going for a double chance for Newcastle since Arsenal will be tired after the game in Dodragao, in Porto, and Black Adam for both teams to score or Trippier to get a yellow card. This could be a good option. For Sunday, we have only one game apart from the final that we've analyzed. Wolves Sheffield United. Sheffield, they are a terrible football team. There is no reaction because after beating Luton, then they were smashed by Brighton. So I guess Wolves should win this game. The odds are not good, Tom, only 1.5.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not going to put any money on Sheffield United for the rest of this season. I haven't bet on them all season long, and I don't advise anyone does. Though I will say Chris Wilder was handed such a horrible hospital pass from Paul Heckingbottom, but mainly from the owner of the club and the owners of the club and the investors at the club. They didn't build a Premier League squad. And in the end, you don't build a Premier League squad, you get relegated again. That's the way it goes. Impressive when they beat Luton in the last away game, but, you know, they're not good enough, and that's the end of it. In terms of Wolverhampton Wanderers, a better counter-punching team than they are a team with the ball, and I think you see in their last couple of home games, they've struggled against Man United, against Brentford especially. You know, Brentford low-blocked, and Wolves couldn't score against them. Though, to be fair, Everton tried that, and they thrashed them 3-0. So, look, you can't bet on Sheffield United. I won't touch the draw, so you look at ways Wolves win. I'm going to look at the Everton game as a guide and take a -1 handicap for Wolverhampton Wanderers. That brings you in at 2.38. A -2 handicap brings you in at 4.33. If you're going to bet on this game, you've got to look handicap market. And the other thing I'd look at here is Pedro Neto. Such a terrific player, Pedro Neto. And, you know, I hate the way football is that Wolves might have to sell him in the summer as opposed to get better themselves to comply with sustainability rules, which is just total rubbish. And goes to show you that these rules are created by a cabal of clubs who want to pull up the drawbridge behind them and steal your best players, and they need to be rewritten, and there'd be better regulation immediately for all of football. But until that happens, Wolves have got to sell Pedro Neto. It's a shame. But for now, they've got him. For now, he's fit, and go for a Neto goal, and Wolves win, and you'll double your money.
Sheffield United won the reverse fixture, by the way, but now Wolves, they are in really good form, high-scoring games, usually. And for a Monday evening, I'm sure you are going to the stadium, Tom. West Ham, Brentford, really tricky one to predict. We can see it in the odds, really, really balanced. No wins in the last 6 for West Ham, no goals in the last 3. Brentford, 5 points from the relegation spot, so still in trouble. Stay away from West Ham, Tom?
Oh, yeah, stay away in every conceivable way. There's the David Moyes row is wild at West Ham. You know, the fact his contract runs out in the summer and they're letting it run down has opened itself up to this ongoing conversation. Should he stay or should he go? Recent performances, you know, December was fantastic for West Ham. Lest we forget, they were, I think, the top or second top points getters in the Premier League across December, and they beat Arsenal and Man United in that run. So, and Tottenham, I think, away in December. So that wasn't that long ago. The trouble is things have really fallen apart. The negativity of lack of investment in the January transfer window, the injury to Lucas Paqueta, stunned the season, really. And West Ham are now, I think, going to focus on the Europa League, which they could probably win. If they avoid Liverpool and avoid Milan, maybe. I think they go on to Leverkusen. You know, they could certainly make the semi-finals, and that would be a fantastic achievement for West Ham. And then when you're in the semi-finals, anything can happen from there. And in the league, you know, no Paqueta, can't create a chance. You saw it again last week. Were Forest that much better than West Ham? Not really, but West Ham can't play a forward pass. And that's the problem. They can't get the ball into Kudus and Bowen because no one at the club can play a forward pass. And that's a problem. The good news is Calvin Phillips is suspended, got sent off last week, just totally gone as a footballer. Terrible, terrible signing. The worst possible signing they could have made in January. He's made Thomas Souček look good, and that's about as bad as endorsement as I can give on somebody. In terms of Brentford, they've won this fixture quite a lot. They beat West Ham quite a lot. They've won this game, I think, twice at London Stadium. They've won it a couple of times back at the G-Tech. They'll go to West Ham and win again. And Brentford to win at 2.85, just take it. Just take it. That's near 2-1. That's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth putting in a slightly riskier accumulator. And also, look at the Wolverhampton Wanderers game from a couple of weeks ago. Tony scores and Brentford win. Follow that pattern. Tony scores, Brentford win, 3.75. Take it.
All right, pessimistic Tom about his West Ham in the Premier League, dreaming about the Europa League. Marco is going for both teams to score. Black Adam Brentford to score from a corner. Both teams to score. Tom is saying no, because West Ham is not scoring.
West Ham have scored 1 goal in the league from open play this year. So there you go.
Wow. Well, Tom, this is it for our show. Your safe bet?
Safe bet this week, you won't be surprised. Man City to win. Man City go to Bournemouth and win.
Foden or Bellingham, by the way? Who would you pick for your fantasy Euro, whatever?
Declan Rice.
Okay. And ACCA?
Yeah, I'm annoyed at this at the moment. I'm doing trebles and 2 keep coming in. It's really getting on my wick. So I've gone for another treble and it's got to come in because it's annoying me, this. My treble is Villa, Brighton, and Manchester United. Villa beat Nottingham Forest, Brighton beat Everton, United beat Fulham. It's rare to get a 3 home win treble at 4.91. So I'm taking that.
All right. This is Tom's treble to finish the video. Good luck to everyone. Thank you, Tom. See you next week.